So my boss came in and she said that she was humming Uptown Funk. And so now I have Uptown Funk stuck in my head, which is always a funny situation to find oneself in. All right. So yeah, I'm starting to get blips. I can't. Okay, so it says, so Krista is saying that they and Aaliyah are saying they can hear now. Thank you for letting me know, my friends. I appreciate that. On my laptop, it went to the default settings were the right ones. For this one, I had to change a couple of the settings to point it to the mic and to the speakers that we were using. So now you should be able to hear me, which is good. If I'm too loud, too soft, too quiet, for some reason, I'm not getting any audio feedback on this laptop. So let me know if anything gets weird, okay? Thanks, guys. We're getting close to 4 o'clock. We might wait just a couple of minutes, chat just a little bit. We do have a question up on the Edmodo site right now. The icebreaker question I had is, if you could see any animal in the world and do it safely, obviously, you wouldn't want to be put in a dangerous situation with the animal, but if it could be any animal in the world, what animal would that be? There's so many cool animals out there. So that's a tough one. For me, I think it would be a split between a bald eagle and a great white shark. There was a video that came up on my Facebook feed today from a science website that I follow, and there were these paddle boarders that were out in some shallow water, getting a little bit deeper, and there were two great white sharks that were circling around their boards, kind of checking things out. It was a crazy awesome video, but I just don't know how I would have handled that. Probably not well. They're just such a powerful animal. They're so cool. And then the bald eagle is another one of those animals that really impresses me with the strength and agility and just the amount of power that it possesses. So it scares the heck out of me as part of it, but it's also just so cool. Someone else was saying that a lion, Chloe was saying that a lion would be what animal she would like to see. Jackie mentioned a cheetah. And I believe somewhere else, Shane mentioned that a white wolf would be a fantastic animal to also be able to see. So thank you for responding to that question there. Laurel, it looks like. So Megan, thank you for letting me know that you can hear me. I'm responding to Laurel real fast on Edmodo. She's not able to get onto our chat right now. All right, just responded to that. Aaliyah is saying that a lynx would be the animal that she would like to see safely if she could. So my friends, it is about 4:01 right now. I think we'll wait maybe 1 or 2 more minutes and see if anyone else would like to join us for our chat today. We are going to be chatting about the first 6 chapters of Chomp by Carl Hyacin, or I'm not exactly sure how to say his last name. It might be Hyacin. I'm not actually sure. I should probably look that up before our next chat and see how you're actually supposed to say that. Right now we're chatting about if you could see safely any animal in the entire world, what would that animal be? I mentioned that I would be a tie for me between a bald eagle and a great white shark. Both just such powerful animals. Let's see. Anyone else has responded here? Have about 6 viewers right now. Thank you everyone who's joining us today. I know that we are heading into 4th of July weekend, so we might have a little bit of a smaller group, which would be totally fine. We will be I'll be chatting with you guys through the video link, and then you guys can respond to the questions over on Edmodo, and myself and Miss Karen, who is my co-pilot today, will be responding on Edmodo and also be chatting with you guys. So thanks again for joining us. It's around 4:03. Hello to we now have 8 viewers, so hello to the last couple of people that are joining us right now. And I have to say that I am really enjoying the book so far. I've only read the first 6 chapters. I read them during my lunch break today, but I was really enjoying the story. I was really enjoying the characters already, and a lot of the dynamics that are already starting to take place, and things that are probably going to be causing problems later on in the book, which is going to be pretty exciting. Shane, thank you for letting me know that you can hear. And Nicole, hi to you as well. Well, there we go. Say hello to Nicole over on Edmodo right now. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and get ourselves going here. Wanted to give you guys a little bit of background on the author, Carl Hiaasen. He's been living in Florida for his whole life. And so he has been in that area, and he's also somewhat of an outdoor enthusiast. He is actually a fantastic fly fisherman from some of the articles that I've read, and that was pretty exciting to hear that he actually knows about animals. He's also very much into wildlife preservation. A lot of his books are based on humor, but also having he's very passionate about the environment and large organizations or the government destroying the environment. And so that was a question that I wanted to put to you guys. A lot of Carl Hiaasen's work is very funny, but the vast majority of it is also focused on the destruction of the environment and how he's not okay with that. So the first question is, are there things that you guys are passionate about? Things that you guys feel very strongly about? And Ms. Karen, if you wouldn't mind posting that real fast, thank you very much. And we can see if there are some responses to that. For me, I'm very passionate about reading. I'm very passionate about being kind to those around you, ultimately, where walking down the street, instead of it being avoiding eye contact, or when you go into Starbucks, you go into Java Hayden, you go into Calypso's, you go into Walmart. When you get to those places, actually smiling at the people that you see, rather than it being someone that's just having a bad day. You never know if that quick smile from a complete stranger might be the thing that turns their day around. And so being kind to those around you and being that ray of sunshine rather than it being that Johnny Raincloud that's out there. So that's kind of something that I'm passionate about off the top of my head. It can be something simple like that. It could be something about wildlife conservation. It could be a part of your worldview, a belief that you hold strongly. If you want to respond to that question on Edmodo, we can chat about that just a little bit. Hello to you, Miss Karen, over there on Edmodo as well. Let's see here. Krista was mentioning, responding to what animal would you like to see. She mentioned lyrebirds and that she would be interested in seeing those. They're one of the few animals that they can successfully mimic sounds and movements. Essentially, they can sing and dance at the same time. That is fantastic. There's a lot of fictional characters, a lot of fictional animals I know that have that ability, but the fact that they actually exist is so cool. Thank you for mentioning that, Krista. Don't have any responses to that question right now. Ms. Karen, if you would like to respond on Edmodo, you're more than welcome to. Right now, I think we might move on. Let's jump down to another question. Near the end of chapter 6, we're introduced to how Mickey, who's Wahoo's father, was set on the path of animal wrangler. A garter snake bit him when he was around 4 years old, and he just stood there staring in wonderment. It was just about the coolest thing that he'd ever seen, and that's reading straight from the book there. And that's how he responded to a garter snake biting him when he was 4 years old. Do you guys think that that is how you would have responded to a garter snake biting you when you were 4 years old? Or even if a garter snake was biting you today, is that you'd sit there when it's clamping down your hand, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever, whoa! Personally, for me, that is not how I would handle something like that. I would probably be freaking out a little bit. So you can respond to that on Edmodo if you would like to. the way that they were responding in the book. Another question that Karen has posted there is, did you notice any differences in the writing styles between Chomp and Cinder? I've only read the first 6 chapters of Chomp, as I mentioned, but something that I caught on with is that the book does seem to be written for a slightly younger audience than Cinder was in some of the vocabulary that was used, and also in the way that the sentences were written seemed to be just a little bit simpler, which made it a little bit easier to read, and it also made it I think another thing that I noticed about the writing style is that it was a little bit more comical, a little bit more just kind of everyday language, rather than Cinder, which was a little bit more of that adventure writing, a little bit more of that intensity, jumping in right from the beginning. So those were a couple of things that I noticed. If you want to respond on Edmodo for some things that you might have noticed in the writing styles between Chomp and Cinder, that would be awesome. Let's see if there's anything else. Nice. So Chloe mentioned that she once wrote about animals. She mentioned that she wrote about animals, and Laurel also mentioned that she wrote about her cat when she was 10 years old. Jordan made a comment about our question of something that you are passionate about. And Jordan mentioned, I can't stand people littering in the ocean or anywhere else where sea turtles are in the way because they think plastic bags are jellyfish and they try to eat it and it suffocates them. And I also don't like oil spills where they kill off all those animals by accident, but it keeps happening. And that's something... well, let me see quite at the end there. That's something that he would like them to stop doing. Thank you for responding to that, Jordan, something that you are passionate about. Sometimes those things that we are passionate about can be rather scary to bring up in front of other people. So thank you for being honest with that. If anyone else would like to respond to that trend, they can respond to Jordan, or they can respond to the question that Miss Karen posted, or you can do a brand new response and we can respond to that one as well. Let's see here. Jackie says that she completely agrees with Jordan. And Chloe, thank you for letting me know that you agree with those stylistic differences between Chomp and Cinder. The fact that Chomp seemed to be a little bit more humorous and also seemed to be written for a slightly younger audience. There is another question that I wanted to ask you guys. It was kind of about that differences in writing style between Cinder and Chomp. I mentioned that the book is written for a slightly younger audience. Do you think that it was realistic for Wahoo's dad to not cuss? If you notice in the first couple of chapters there, when there was a swear word, Wahoo's dad would say bleepin' instead of actually saying a cuss word. And that's something that later on we realized that that was because Wahoo's mom was not comfortable with Wahoo cussing, and so to respect his wife, he started saying bleepin' instead of actually those words. Do you guys think that that was a realistic change? Do you think that that's how Wahoo's dad might actually act? And do you also think that might have been a clever way for Carl Hyacin to make the book appropriate for those younger audiences? Because the book is written for that younger audience. So if you guys would like to respond to that question, Miss Karen is going to put that up on Edmodo. You can respond in that thread that Miss Karen starts off, or you could just respond the normal way, and we'll be able to see that as well. And Jordan and Megan said, agreeing with Jackie and agreeing with Jordan about the oil spills and about people littering in the ocean. And Aaliyah mentions that was really deep, Jordan, and I completely agree. And Zach also mentioned that Flush, another book by Carl Hyacin, was about that same topic. So Zach, thank you for bringing that up as well. And Jordan, thank you for starting that discussion. Looks like we have a couple new posts that we have up here. And Krista mentioned that Chomp is written in a realistic style of fiction, whereas Cinder is obviously improbable and more of a science fiction-y kind of story. Thank you for mentioning that, Krista, and that does make a lot of sense. Laurel mentioned that she's already finished the book in the first week, and that's something that I noticed, is that it went really quickly once you started writing, and Laurel promises that she won't be giving away any spoilers, and Laurel, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I found that I really enjoyed the book right from the beginning. It was rather improbable as well. It was written in that stylistic, a little bit more realistic fiction, but it also has a little bit of kookiness to it. Wahoo's dad is a little bit out of his game right now because of a frozen iguana that dropped on his head and gave him a concussion, which is, it's sad because he needs to have all of his faculties about him in order to handle those wild animals. But it's also kind of comical because how many people get workers' comp and are taken out of their job because a frozen iguana fell on their head? So it's sad on one sense, but it's also kind of comical. And I found that realistic fiction, it seemed very probable that those things would happen. But some of those real life events that were put into the book were also like, huh, that could totally happen, but I wouldn't imagine that would happen in a normal setting. That kind of brings me to another question that I wanted to ask you guys. And I'm pretty sure I had it down here. With Wahoo's dad, Mickey, there was a part in the book that a python that was hungry, and when he was in the cage, it started chewing on his leg, and it also started to choke him out. And so he immediately calls for Wahoo. He remains calm. First of all, I do not think that I would respond in that way. But I was wondering how you guys thought that scene was written. Do you think that scene was written in an intense fashion, kind of like Cinder was written in, where with the Letimosis, or when Prince Kai gets into a difficult situation? Was it written kind of in an intense fashion? Or was it written more of in a matter-of-fact, hey, there's a python chewing on my leg and trying to kill me right now? And I was wondering if you guys had any ponderings on why that might be the case, or if you think that it was written in more of an intense way, or if you think it was written in more of a matter-of-fact kind of way. So if you guys wanted to respond to that on Edmodo, Miss Karen's going to throw up that question as well. You can respond, and we'll see if we have a couple other responses going on here.
Dalton responded to the
Oh, fantastic. So Dalton responded to the cuss words, if that was realistic. And Dalton said, yes, I do. Since Mickey trained himself to do that, he says that he just does bleeping every time. It's become a habit. Dalton, thank you for that. I think that does, when you care about someone, you can adjust the way that you're living. And I think that does make sense that it would have become a habit for Mickey. And Miss Karen has thrown up that question about a python chewing on your leg and what you might think about how that scene was written. And let's see here. And Megan responded to that cussing question. She said that she really didn't think it was realistic. And Dalton says, I guess it would be if it was intended to be that way. It just doesn't sound as bad as swearing. And that does make sense. For Jackie, she says, not necessarily. It could be. I say fudge instead of the F word, and I've come up with my own words instead of cussing. And that's something else, a stylistic technique that some authors use when they're trying to make their work a little bit more appropriate for younger readers. And that's also something that we do in our daily lives. There's things that we want to say, but we censor ourselves. So thank you for commenting on those. If anyone else would like to comment on that thread, you are more than welcome to. Okay. Let's see here. Looks like they are a little bit lower. Here we go. So Krista, in responding to that same topic, said, I feel that since the character of Wahoo's dad was created specifically for children, it is realistic that he wouldn't swear. However, someone in his position in the real world would most likely not adhere to this rule, especially when experiencing moments of high stress. And Krista, I think that is a very astute response. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Aaliyah mentioned that she also had finished the book, just like Laurel did. And let's see if there's a couple other responses here. I'm noticing down lower that Aaliyah responded to the littering in the ocean. Aaliyah says, I'm really sensitive about how others treat me and my friends. Unfortunately, I sometimes overreact. But hey, I love my friends and I don't want them to get their feelings hurt. And I think that makes a lot of sense, Aaliyah. I think sticking up for your friends is fantastic, but we also do need to be aware that those people that are hurting us might be having a bad day. But I think sticking close to your friends and being supporting your friends is a fantastic thing to do. And let's see here if we have a couple other responses. Come back up to the top on Edmodo here. And Shane says that he's getting to chapter 3 and he's really enjoying it so far. He says it's really good. And Shelby also had a comment. She says, I think that the book could be made for a little bit more of an older audience because later on, Mickey does swear on the D there, and some word I had to look up in the dictionary because I did not know what that meant. And I usually have a very large vocabulary. And so that is something else to keep in mind, is that there are some words later on that Shelby thought might have been a little bit inappropriate for that younger audience. And Aaliyah also made a comment. She said, when a python was trying to chew on her leg, Aaliyah said, I would freak out. And she also says that she probably would have died. And that's something else to notice, is that Mickey was trained to do these things. He was interested in those garter snakes when he was younger. And snakes are he has a particular fondness for snakes. And so he knows a lot about them. But you also notice that he had Wahoo that actually had to come and save him from that situation. Because Alice is a 14-foot python. I'm sorry, not Alice. That's the alligator. Balea, something like that, is a 14-foot constrictor, a python. And that animal is strictly muscle from head to toe, with a brain they mentioned was only a marble size. And so once they get their teeth and their coils around you, getting out of that's going to be very difficult. So but Mickey was able to have his sidekick, his son Wahoo, actually protect him from that situation. And so I most likely would be freaking out and most likely would have had a very difficult time getting out of that because I wouldn't have been trained on what to do. Chloe says that she thinks it was really intense. Jordan says that I probably would have freaked out and I probably would not be calm because I hate snakes. And I always think of Indiana Jones when I think of snakes. Snakes, why did it have to be snakes? And because he had that fear from when he was younger and fell into that snake pit. That was in the third movie, I believe, which is The Last Crusade, which is a fantastic one. Jordan says that snakes also creep him out. Krista says that he's very nonchalant about such a terrifying thing. Though considering that he met his first snake at the age of 4, I'm sure that he has been desensitized to it. And that makes a lot of sense. He's used to having those animals. And they say that his hands are almost like rubber hands at for a Halloween prank because they've just been so scarred and so bitten up. And so he is used to having those animals attack him. Zach says he would try to loosen it up, its coils, and try to remove the fangs. Something that the book mentioned, Zach, is that if you try to get out of it, the snake might actually have tried to tighten the coils because it's used to its prey struggling. And the more you struggle, the snake actually tried to constrict more to stop you from doing that. I found it interesting that instead of trying to fight the snake, Wahoo knew exactly what to do to go and get that alcohol, which is something that the snake wouldn't be as excited about. So then the snake actually associated that bad taste with the prey that he had, with the prey that she had. So the snake said, okay, fine, I'm going to go look for some easier prey. And the snake actually released him. So I found that to be rather interesting. Shelby says that she really hates snakes, and she has no idea how she would have reacted. Because I know that snakes would have tightened its grip, but things freak me out so easily. So I most likely would have screamed my head off. and that makes sense. Jackie also comments, I would have freaked out inside, but I would have tried to stay calm. It would have been hard, though. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Something that I noticed while reading that scene, kind of going back to that question we had a little bit earlier, was that scene for me in Cinder, when we were talking about Letimosis, or some of those intense scenes that happened. It seemed like the author was writing in an intense fashion, writing in a way that was going to make us excited, be like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? It almost seemed that Carl Hiaasen was writing this book in a little bit more of a nonchalant, kind of normal way. I think part of that does deal with the characters that are trained to deal with these difficult situations. But I think it might also be because Carl comes from that wildlife preservation background, where he wants us to know that wildlife is beautiful. He wants us to know that we should be protecting the environment. But I think he also wants us to know that the environment can be dangerous. And so these characters know how to handle the environment, but they also know that if a snake is hungry, that it's going to start chomping on them. And instead of it being that they're freaking out, they're actually calm about it. And that's something that was a stylistic difference that I noticed between Cinder and Chomp as well, is that Cinder was going for to raise that reaction out of us. Well, this book seems to be a little bit more on kind of giving it to us straight rather than trying to make us freak out. And I thought that was really interesting. Okay. So my co-pilot mentioned that I only have about 5 minutes left. So apparently I've been talking quite a bit. Thank you for all of your responses on Edmodo as well. I really appreciate that. And Shane commented that his favorite character right now in the book so far is Wahoo. And that makes a lot of sense. And the fact that he is so good with the animals, the fact that he has a head on his shoulders, he's a really good character. Let's see, Jordan made a comment. There was a story on TV a while back, and this 10-year-old had a huge python the same size as Mickey, and he slept with it and hung around with it all the time. And it freaked Jordan out. And Jordan, that also freaks me out. Shane mentioned that it kind of would scare him. And Dalton said that he heard a story about a girl who bought a boa constrictor that every night would size her up to eat her. And Dalton, that's what I've noticed too. There's a couple of stories where people have had large snakes, and as long as you kept them fed, they were good. But if the snake ever got hungry, the snake would lay down beside you. And you might think, oh, it's like a dog. It's just cozying up to you, trying to get your body heat. What I've heard is that that's actually the way that the snake will size you up. And so that's actually a, whoa, this is not okay. And so it's once again that having those wild animals is nature is gorgeous and nature is fantastic. And it blows my mind every time that I'm out on a starry night, when I'm near a waterfall, when I'm on a hike with my friends. But it's also something, especially with wildlife, they can be beautiful, but there's also that danger that's involved there. There's a couple more posts on Edmodo there. Karen did a quick question on Edmodo. At the end of chapter 6, Wahoo's mom is described as, but that was Susan, Wahoo's mom. She was amazing, period. I thought it was really cool that Wahoo had a mom and a dad character that were both loving to each other. They had their problems like everyone does, and they had that long distance they had to do in order to make that money keep flowing in, but they seem to have a very solid relationship. And they also have that loving relationship with Wahoo, and I thought that was really cool. If you guys wanted to, the question that I had kind of based on that was, what's something that your parent or your parents have done for you recently? Because I find that my parents are fantastic. My parents are awesome. And I was wondering if there are some awesome things your parents have done recently. And let's see here. Zach wrote the question of who's your favorite character in Chomp so far. If you guys wanted to respond to that, that would be fantastic. I'm going to look through and see if there's one last question we might want to talk about before we have to split here. And one thing that I wanted to talk about is, do you guys watch any reality TV shows? It seems like that's going to be a big piece of this book. There's that wildlife element of it, but there's also that reality TV. And the fact that it says it's reality TV with exploration survival, but it's actually not that real at all in the way that Derek Badger acts, and also in the fact that they have caged animals and they kind of stage what's going on there. So I was wondering if there are any reality TV shows that you guys watch and how real you think those things are. Do you think that they script a lot of those shows? Do you think that a lot of it is off of the cusp? Do you think a lot of it is impromptu? Or do you think that a lot of it is a little bit more of, oh, this is going to give a shock value, and this is going to make it seem like this is something that's going to happen? And let's see here. Shelby mentioned that she loves the books and that she read all the way to chapter 24, and she only got the book yesterday. And I'm thinking that's what I'm going to be doing, Shelby, right as soon as I get off work today, is start reading the book again, because I've really been appreciating it. And let's see here. Oh, very cool. Very cool. So Dalton mentioned that his parents took him to Utah, and that's where he's posting from. Dalton, thank you again for joining us from Utah. That's fantastic. And I hope you guys have a great trip while you're there. That is awesome. Very cool. Chloe mentions that her parents have taken her to the beach twice in the last 3 days. That's fantastic. Love that. And my friends, it's about 4:29 right now, so I think we're just about out of time. We're going to post a couple more of the questions that we had. There was quite a few other ones we weren't able to get to today. We'll post those on Edmodo, and if you guys want to respond to that during the week, you're more than welcome to. Also wanted to mention, we're probably going to throw up Carl Hyacин's website. So if you guys wanted to know a little bit more about him, there were some TV interviews. There were also some articles about Carl Hyacin. If you guys wanted to know a little bit more about him, you can also look more about the books and some of the articles and posts that he has. And right now, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep enjoying the book. Enjoy outside. It is gorgeous right now, a little bit hot, so jump in the water. Stay cool, drink lots of water, and we will see you guys online during the week. And we'll also see you next week, 4 o'clock on Edmodo, and also chatting with you. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to throw up this archive for those that weren't able to see it, and hope you guys have a great week. Thanks for participating, guys. We'll catch you later, all right?